Another week to the season down, which means it's time for another panel presented by Sport Chek. Chris Westcott, Bob Stauffer, Jack Michaels alongside you to talk all things Oilers. Gentlemen, the team was feeling pretty good about themselves heading into LA. However, they suffer a 5-2 loss. What's the state of this team right now? I mean, we could start things off with the fact that they've allowed 9 goals on the first shot of the game.
Well, and that leads you into chasing the game, and really the Oilers had been down 2-0 at home to Buffalo, down 2-0 at home to Calgary, down 2-0 at home to Colorado. Now, they rallied to beat Calgary, they rallied to get a point against Colorado, but it does exert a tremendous amount of strain on your hockey club when you're constantly chasing the game, the season, and that's been Edmonton's position all year long. They've been chasing right from the first 3 or 4 games of the year. 5-2 not indicative of the way that game went. But in the third period, with a game tied at 2, LA won the period, won the game. That can't happen too many more times, or Edmonton will be permanently in chase position for this season.
Bob, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, let's look at Cam Talbot. The guy's a good goalie, and he's a good person, but he's not having as good a season as he was last year. Both of those goals yesterday to start the first and second period, you can make an argument a year ago, he might have had both of them. He didn't. And so I'm confident that Cam will play better down the stretch, and I'm confident moving forward Cam will be fine. But he's probably the first guy looking in the mirror going, you know, I got to play a little bit better here, because that's the sort of guy he is. He's a good veteran that way. But it does start in goal. I mean, when you have the 30th ranked save percentage in the NHL, and Cam's marginally down in his 5-on-5 save percentage, obviously penalty killing, that's a different stat, that's part of the equation. And then for me, the other part of it is the lack of secondary scoring. And we were concerned when Nugent Hopkins went out of the lineup. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are in a bit of a heater right now. Both guys got points over the last 4 games. Connor's got the 7 goals in the last 3. You know, Leon's got 7 points in the last 4 games. But you need more secondary scoring, especially if your goaltender's fighting it at times. It's not all the time, but you need some other guys to kick in, and we got a lot of players right now in lengthy droughts.
Well, Jack, where is the secondary scoring, and how do they spark that?
Well, I think Milan Lucic played a good game in Los Angeles. He's getting close. Ryan Strome, you know, had 5 points in his last 3 games before the game in Los Angeles. He's knocking on the door too. But ultimately, as Todd McLellan said after the game, some of those have to start going in. Or Edmonton is, without Nugent Hopkins, looking at a 2- or 3-pronged offensive attack. So it's not just necessarily giving up goals. I mean, Cam gave up 3 in the loss to Los Angeles, but when you're not getting anything other from, you know, McDavid and Draisaitl on a reliable basis, someone you can count on, and these other guys in the top 9, they've also gone on prolonged droughts. It's not just, you know, Strome and Lucic. I think they were expecting more from players like Drake Caggiula, and you know, and a little bit more offense from the back end too. I mean, Darnell Nurse went on a nice little run. He hasn't had much help with offense pushing up from the back end. And you look at the top teams in the National Hockey League, teams like Nashville, they get offense from their back end. Tampa's another good example. And I don't think the Oilers have had enough offense from their back end on a consistent basis either.
Yeah, you're saying that the team can't do it by themselves with just 2 players going. But Connor McDavid, let's talk about him, because since the last time you guys talked on the panel, he's had a couple of outstanding games.
Well, he's trying to elevate and drag the rest of the group along with him. Part of the equation that's helped him get going offensively is the power play. The power play is 3 for its last 5. Before that, it was 3 for the previous 50. So they moved a couple players. We'll talk about the players that came in. Drake Caggiula came in, and so too did Ryan Strome. And they've had better puck movement. And frankly, if not for a really good save last night, you might have had another power play goal from Leon Draisaitl on the 3rd power play. So I think that's helping generate a little bit more offense and creating some offensive confidence for Connor.
Jack, McDavid's speed in a whole another level right now?
Well, I mean, he's playing great. And Leon Draisaitl, for as much as he's had kind of a quiet season, a lot of people think he's been quiet. He's still a point-per-game player. I mean, if you're an 80-point player in the National Hockey League, that puts you on a very short list, and that's where Leon Draisaitl is. Of course, he was banged up a little bit earlier in the season and missed some games, but Edmonton, again, needs more, and they better get it in a hurry, because Anaheim and San Jose are teams clinging to their own playoff lives. They're playing just as desperate as the Oilers, and so these games on the weekend, even though the Oilers have had success in both buildings, they're certainly not gimmies. They're head-to-head competition inside the division, and they're games Edmonton has to have.
The team said that these were important games coming up. They've got Anaheim Friday, San Jose on Saturday. Bob and Jack have the call, and I've got you covered on Oilers TV.